Welcome. We did spend the better part of 4 years living on a sailboat, and that is what we're going to be talking with you all about today.
Our presentation isn't the whole trip, so this is our presentation. And Brenda is like a 20-year sailor here, and I'm about 45 years sailor.
And he won the nudes once, racing a long time ago.
And they made us keep our clothes on.
So I wanted to just start by talking a little bit about our how we approached becoming liveaboards. And this is a pretty good list of what we went through. And the first thing really that we did was turn a house into a boat.
So our friends have great boats up at Lake Superior, and we looked at boats that were popular up there. So we had 3 major boats, a Sabre, a Tartan, and we even looked at a Valiant. But what we were looking for was a solid core boat, and we settled on a Tartan.
Yeah. And when I say turning a house into a boat, John and I are a second marriage, and so we came into that with at least 2 of everything. So there were 2 houses.
My house became a boat.
Yep. So then we spent a good deal of time learning the boat, about 6 years I think, sailing in the Apostle Islands and playing. And then we moved into taking some longer trips in Lake Superior towards the end of that 6 years. And I've listed some of our places that we went to.
Short and long sails.
So with regards to playing in the Apostle Islands, one of the things we really loved to do up there is have friends come join us for a weekend, or sometimes a 3-day weekend.
This is one of our favorite places, the sand caves up at the Bayfield. Some of you Lake Superior people recognize it.
They're just fabulous.
You take your dinghy and you go through the caves.
Or your paddleboard or your kayak or whatever you have, so it's great fun. And
I can't come back this far.
so, and then in terms of some of our longer trips, we would typically cross from Bayfield, Wisconsin over to Grand Marais and spend a day or 2 there, and then go either to Isle Royale, which we circumnavigated twice, or to the Canadian coastline, and saw many great anchorages along Canada. One of our favorites was the Thomas Island Nature Preserve.
And I did a practical joke on the Canadians that I'm confessing to right now. So they had this candle opera that was on a string line, and you light the candles to light up this picnic area. And so I added a pull chain, so the kids would try to turn the candles on. And this one's all red, but I had a red, white, and blue one there. And I love telling the story that, and even the Canadians liked it. So Brenda.
So this staircase of sorts, so one of the things we found out in sailing the whole Canadian coastline is a lot of times we were anchored in what would equate to national parks in the United States. And this is what the staircase in a national park looks like in Canada. Not quite, there's no handicap accessibility, there's no handrail, it's very rustic. It was really built by the sailing community. There were anchor lines, you pulled yourself up from, and as you got further up this hill, there wasn't even staircase at all. It was really just very steep hills and pulling myself up with anchor lines. But it was fabulous. This picture I actually took from up on the top. And you can also see all the way to Thunder Bay from here.
The local sailing community built all this themselves. No, just their own money. And there's around the corner here, there's a hot tub, a sauna, where they had indoor water that he pumped in and solar lights. It was just great.
Fabulous, yep. Another of our favorite places that's right near to the park is Tea Harbor, which is under Sleeping Giant, so another sort of
it was in the inlet of Thunder Bay.
Thunder Bay, yeah.
Yeah, and I was there, again.
True.
This is my brother, he's a captain down in Texas.
Yeah, he took this trip with us up to this part when we did the Canadian coastline. So then our next sort of easing into being full-time liveaboards is we tested it.
Because you never know, we might not get along.
Or he's so extroverted. I was afraid he'd be, I could sit and read a book all day and be happy. But I thought John's going to miss his friends and he'll feel lonely and he's not going to like us. So we, had to figure out if this is going to work. So we took the summer off from our jobs, traveled the Canadian coastline. 2 of our favorite anchorages there are listed, which you may have heard about in Lake Superior. We went down the St. Mary's River through the Soo Locks. It was my second time doing that because I had helped transport a boat with Tom Brown through the Soo Locks. And then from there, south on Lake Michigan, and I highlighted several of our favorite places. We have more pictures. At the end of the season, we still liked each other. And we liked our boat, so we were good to go. Let's see, next one. So this is some pictures of the Soo Locks. Some of you who've been there will recognize
As you
them.
come through the Soo Locks, this is the marina that everybody that does the Trans-Siberian moors in there. It's very crowded. All the dock hands and the management there knows exactly what's going
They're
on.
really good. Yeah, so Kemp Marina, and then the actual locks are here.
Oh, yeah.
And we climbed up, there's a historical tower there that we climbed up. You pay a few dollars and we're able to get all these fabulous pictures.
The locks are interesting. There's all these tourists watching you go up and down.
Yeah, it's a little terrifying because you're living in the fishbowl trying to make sure you know how to go through a lock. Okay, so then Mac and I mentioned that was one of our highlights.
This is the bridge, Mackinac Bridge, that you come through to finish the Chicago Mac race. And we were there the Sunday before, Saturday night, Sunday, we went to leave Sunday morning, Pink Pony. And seeing we were only there one night, the generosity was overwhelming. The harbor master gave us a berth there for free for overnight.
Because we had to get out of it early because the sailors who did the Chicago Mac had reserved those slips. So they gave us a free night. And then we're in the Pink Pony, like before it opened, standing outside waiting to get in for breakfast. And we're chatting with 2 young ladies who had been race officers for the Chicago Mac.
They did the inspections, they looked at everybody's boat, make sure all the safety equipment, and we invited them for breakfast. And we talked about it, we're gonna buy them breakfast.
So we're gonna buy them breakfast. Fun hearing about all the behind the scenes of the Chicago Mac. It was awesome. We go to pick up the bill. Turns out that the race officer, the main big cheese guy, had picked
up the bill. And in this theme, other people being so generous was over and over and over our whole 4 years.
Yep, it was amazing. So let's see. So as we started this race,
This journey,
I still got it in me. When we started the journey, we wanted to have like things that we were going to do along the way, not just be zipping along. And so we both love baseball, and so it was baseball parks and museums.
The Great American Voyage to see all the baseball parks in the United States.
Yep. So this is the Brewers. It was pretty new at the time, and then of course the Cubbies. You gotta go see the Cubbies.
And it's 6 blocks from the marina, easy walk.
And then museums was our other thing. Museums, art galleries.
Chicago Institute of Art, and this is the Milwaukee Art Museum.
And I've got a link. There's a link out on YouTube, but I can't get it to play here because my computer, when it's plugged in, won't work.
This is a moving
building.
Opens. It opens up, and it's a big, beautiful bird. It's just incredible.
So maybe I'll play that after our talk while we're answering questions or something. I don't know. So then that brings us to the winter of 2019, and our boat stayed in Marionette, Wisconsin, and we figured out how to become full-time liveaboards because we decided this works for us.
While we were in Marinette, Matt was working on his boat down there too, and we kept on running into Wayzata people all over the country. It was kind of fun.
Yep. So we sold our house and all of our stuff, which is a huge project. All those closets full of stuff. you gotta set up, you gotta be comfortable with doing remote banking, remote insurance, all that stuff. You wanna get all of it electronically, no paper mail.
This was pretty easy, except this one.
The voting was really hard to get that working. So we can talk more about all of that. Mail forwarding, that was super important because we didn't want to burden kids or close friends with dealing with our mail, this one right here, for 4 years, you know. So we, you know, the RV people do this all the time. So there are a lot of services that can handle it. And essentially what you need is a postal mailbox, not a PO box, but a PMB. So they're similar but different. The things that was nice about the PMB is, at least when we picked ours up, you could put it on your driver's license. So, you know, we had to move all the banking and the insurance and all the things you need for those fancy, super secure driver's licenses.
Because we didn't have a house.
Change the address on all of those, and then we could change the driver's license, make sure the passports were good to go. Prescriptions, doctors, dentists, make sure those people
The prescriptions, you just get a 3-month supply and you just redo it.
Yep, and we had a really good pharmacist who was great about getting things transferred to wherever we happened to be. And then, of course, the voting and the taxes. There was a lot to work through on the voting. Okay, so the Marionette, Wisconsin was fun.
So there's a skinny channel at Marionette. And as you come up to our marina, there was a manufacturer of destroyers. And you see the channel is real skinny, and the U.S. Navy doesn't want you close to their vessels. On this vessel here, they had
a bunch of Navy guys with great big guns that would be pointing at us when we come in and out of our marina. Oh my gosh, terrifying. I got used to it after a while, and so then I was up front on the bow of the boat getting lines ready and stuff for catching the dock. And I happened to have a really short pair of shorts on that day. And the Navy boys, they got their guns pointed at me, and I come back and I whispered to my husband, "I still got it, honey."
And the only thing I could say was, "Hey, which one?"
So Washington Island, it grows a lot of lavender, and they make oil and everything under the sun.
It's like the winery out west. These just fields after fields after fields. It was great, and it's just beautiful. And we rented bikes, and it's a beautiful island and around.
Yep. And then we happen to be in a historical site on Washington Island, an old farm, and ran into the curator. You know, the randomest things happen when you're open to them. And she walked the whole farm with us. No, but she walked, yeah, we would have.
We would have.
John wanted to.
They had a working sawmill there, and it's all fenced off, and I wanted to go in there and cut some boards, and she was telling me how they used it to cut these boards.
These huge timbers.
And it was all tongue and grooved and pinned, and we talked there for about a couple hours. She talked us into doing the old pictures.
Costumes for,
And then on the back side of the island, it was White Rock Bay, and they don't even want you to take the rocks out of the bay. But we anchored over on this bay here, and then we went around the island to the other side. But it was a great place.
Beautiful anchorage, really pretty scenery. So then 2019, heading to the Atlantic. So by this time you may sort of have the feeling, I mean, a lot of people who decide to live aboard, they have the Caribbean in their heads. That's what they want to do. They're still sailboat racing, they're heading straight to the Caribbean. That's it, that's all they're thinking about. And that's all I was thinking about. And my husband was like, no, honey, slow down. There's a lot of really cool stuff between here and there.
In the North Channel, you just go north. It's all Canadian. It's like doing Lake of the Woods, Louisa. Just beautiful all the time.
Lots of structure, many anchorages, islands you can get out and walk around. The water's way warmer than Lake Superior, so you can get in and swim. You would never go through the North Channel if you were in a rush to get to the Bahamas because
There's
it's out of the way.
So this was a port,
Tobermory.
and there was like a 4-day weather window coming, not for good weather, bad weather.
Really bad.
And this marina had one motto: we got room for another boat. And this gentleman here was a banker, and I was parked behind him. I razzed him mercilessly. He did it to me too. One of the best places to stay.
They became best buddies.
This boat here actually gave us dinner at their house 4 days later.
Yeah. So we had great fun there. But Tobermory, if you go that way, that's your way out of the North Channel, is through Tobermory. So then our next sort of big stop was Detroit.
And we run in, this is Denny Manrique. He owned an S279 here, Island Flyer, and that was our skipper, and we won several new regattas.
Yeah, this guy, Mo. And his wife.
Yeah.
So Mo's a Canadian that has a membership to the Detroit Yacht Club.
And they were all tickled pink that they had a woman Commodore. And then we had to explain
first one.
MB, and then we knew Carol Gross from Minnetonka Yacht Club, so
yeah, it's been done
we know a lot of lady Commodores. So.
Their first one when we were there. And we got to stay there for like a week or 10 days on his, vouching for us.
So I don't know if you recognize, this is Tiger Park, Detroit Lions, and we ran into a Twins coach, Ron Gartenheimer, and I'm a heckler, I don't know if you noticed, and so before the game he was out at home plate, and I yelled, "Good luck, Gartenheimer," and Brenda and I had our Twins hats on, and he gave us the finger. And in the 7th inning stretch, these bad girls were up there throwing out T-shirts and hit Brenda in the chest.
I am pretty sure that he told her to see those two twins.
And Brenda gave the shirt away to
a gal at the yacht club who was like the coat check lady.
And she was so tickled
happy.
pink. And she had a Detroit shirt. And what were we going to do with a Detroit shirt?
Oil change.
Oil change. So Lake Erie was an interesting lake.
So, and our favorite goofy place was Put-in Bay, and
it's a pickup joints where people in their 20s meet their wives.
And they have T-shirts that say, "I met my wife in Put-in Bay," or "I met my husband in Put-in Bay." It truly is.
So we were there like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we were on the docks.
Sitting at the park eating an ice cream cone, watching the ferry get unloaded.
And there's two groups. The women that are dolled out, high heels, and their little fancy carry-on luggage. And groups of 4, and then the groups of 5s, the guys with the cutout jeans, baseball cap, beer,
flip-flops,
beer in a bag. And they would meet over the weekend. It was so funny.
It was really hysterical to watch. We just howled. So that big monument there is for Commodore Perry, who there's a saying that's still
Don't give up the ship.
Don't give up the ship.
One of the Navy's big logos, and it's a big flag that he had made for the War of 1812. And it hangs at Annapolis, Maryland.
And I learned kind of spending hours talking to a federal park guy at the top of the monument there with a million questions. And I learned that, because I didn't know, I was a math girl, right? So history class was for doing my math homework, not paying attention. And I learned that the Canadian border, the Canadian-US border, is the longest demilitarized border in the world. And the reason for that is the agreement at the end of 1812. Isn't that interesting? And another thing you can find information about is the Coast Guard boats. They're only allowed to have like 2 in each of the lakes that have serious weaponry on them. So it's crazy to me. Yeah, it's cool. Okay, next. The next thing in Lake Erie was Cleveland, and we spent quite a bit of time there touring things. tried to see a baseball game, but Cleveland was in New York.
Did they know our schedule?
And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you could walk maybe 6 blocks from the yacht club that we were staying at. And
I don't remember the band, but it was a pretty famous band at the time.
they were doing an indoctrination of the next Hall of Fame rock and roll person. So it was great fun to hang out and hear the music. Okay, so then you go to Buffalo, New York. And Buffalo, New York is where you take your mast down. There's actually 2 places to have it done. One of the places, the guy who runs it has a reputation for being super duper crabby. And I was nervous enough about it. So I'm like, I'm not dealing with the crabby guy.
So we take our mast down. They had the cribbing, and if you notice, our bimini is still up, so we get out of the rain. And it worked out really nice. We had to come up with 6 ratchet straps, and Brenda never seen Niagara Falls.
I never saw Niagara Falls before.
Yes,
Why do you
sir.
have to take the mask off?
You can't get, well, you see that.
The bridges are only 15 feet tall.
Okay.
You can't get on the door, yeah. So it's gotta be down and then back up again.
Oh, what's that?
It's easier to get under them.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and they measure really carefully from your water line to, to make sure you're less
That way you're
than.
not on a YouTube video.
Yeah.
This is a lift bridge. And you can see that they only go up about just barely 15 feet.
Yeah, so. And I, of course, was just thrilled to see, it was on my bucket list. I got to see Niagara Falls.
So one of the things I planted in my head was these kids, before there was motor boats, they're all horses or cows or goats, donkeys pulling these barges up and down the river. So I was looking for apples. Can't you see some little kid eating an apple and throwing it out? So Brenda thought I was nuts.
Yes, I will
Again,
still do.
once. And I was just looking for apple trees. And I'd say, oh, there's one. And she just thought I was blowing smoke.
But
So-
there were apple trees.
Yep, I seen a whole bunch of apple
All along.
trees.
So the Erie Canal is actually, so all these little towns, they're little industrial towns that are just hanging on by a thread. And you'd pull into a town, there'd be a dock with almost always water.
Yeah.
Often water, electrical, an area where you could take a shower, $10 for the night.
Yeah.
Best deal in town, super, super affordable. And and the towns love the tourists because that is their livelihood. So you order a pizza from them or pick up a bottle of wine, maybe both. And they're happy.
And you've seen boats with their mast down or power boats. These were actual channel boats that families would rent out. They sleep about 8 to 10 people. And you've seen a lot of kayakers.
Different kinds, kayakers, bicyclers. So all along the Erie Canal, presumably in the place where the donkeys pulled boats back in the day, they've turned that into bike path. So there's big gangs of people on their bikes that go and they have Airbnb. Or
She says gangs, they're all senior citizens going from one home to
Yeah. So it was great fun to visit with all the other tourists. Put your mask up in Catskill, New York. And there's 2 places that you can have it done. One of the places is a do-it-yourself thing. Again, I was terrified, so I wasn't going for that.
So you actually get it done in about half an hour, because when you take it down, they mark your stays, so they mark it to the pre-existing, so your boat's kind of close to the tune, and then when you retune it, they don't tune your boat, but they put their stick up for you.
And then you got to plug in all your own electrical and make sure everything's working. But they get the big stick up, so that's good.
Yeah.
So then, now we're finally heading to the Bahamas.
Yeah, we're still in the Hudson River, dear.
I know we are. So you continue down the Hudson River from Catskill, New York. We stopped in New York City, of course.
In the Hudson.
Yep, you go out to the Hudson River.
Yeah, the
Erie
bridges
Canal.
there are high.
They're really high.
Yeah, once
you
you
got
get past
really
Catskill.
ocean-going vessels on the Hudson.
Yeah.
How
And
many locks, John and Brenda, how many locks do you actually go through?
I think there was 35 in the Erie Canal.
A lot.
And in the last little bit, they call it a step of 8, I think.
5.
Step of 5, and you go boom, 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 boom.
Just from one to the next.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense.
But the one at the bottom, there's grocery stores, showers.
All the good stuff. The $10 parking on the wall. Yeah, so it's good. So then the next, so down the Hudson River, New York City, our first overnight sail, we went from Sandy Hook, New York. Yes,
Yeah, that's Sandy Hook.
To Cape May, and that was about, for our boat, less than 24 hours, but it depends on your boat.
In the middle of the night, you think you're going to see stars, but you don't. You see the boardwalk in all the casinos. And it just lights up the sky. In one of the casinos, they have a projection. It takes up the whole hotel. It's really bright.
So, and then Annapolis, so our only sort of deadline thing on that first little bit of our journey was we wanted to get to Annapolis, Maryland in time for the boat show, because we'd never seen it. We had friends who told us all about it. I was desperate to see it. And we made it, so that was good. And then Washington, D.C., our second overnight from Beaufort to Charleston, you go around Cape Fear. That was terrifying. And that's more like a 48-hour
Yeah,
sail.
it's tide and current and wind. You get some
And
pretty
you
big
don't
waves
want to
up
get
there.
hung up on the pan flats or something, I think they're called. And the Georgia salt marshes, I will say, most people skip Georgia.
But we
Almost everyone
enjoyed,
does.
one of our J-22 sailors, Carol Pines, she has a winter residence there. She writes books and stuff.
Yeah, so we really wanted to see her, and we were just loved the salt marshes in Georgia. You need a shallower draft boat to safely go through, but they're fabulous scenery.
What was your draft?
It is 3/8 with the board up and 7/9 down.
So we had a swing keel, so it was like perfect for
Yeah. So we did see Times Square,
9/11.
9/11 Memorial, and that's part of the
New York
9/11.
from the water, a great lady. There's Annapolis, so some friends. Some of you may recognize.
John Crump, Pia, Bill Hooper, and then us.
So Bill Hooper was a yacht broker that sold some of the bigger boats. Yeah, so that was great fun to meet up with people. And of course, the notable water tower.
Lighthouse.
Lighthouse.
Yes. This is the famous one outside Annapolis,
Yeah.
down south a little bit. This
then-
was the boat show.
Yeah.
They had, they call it a king tide, and literally the street, we were knee deep,
Walking knee deep in water.
and the cops would shut off streets, and
Yeah, it was a full moon, the wind was blowing from the wrong direction, I don't know, everything.
these are docks that float, so the boats at the docks would go up and down, they were fine. But all the little booths, they were underwater. It was,
So one of the other things we loved visiting in Annapolis was the Naval Academy. There's just 2 pictures from there, but the architecture and the history again was just amazing.
yeah,
So,
here's the goat, the Navy goat.
with my husband, the old goat.
So we said we parked in the shadow of the Washington Monument. We really did. That's how close we could get to the Washington DC.
So, and the mooring balls in the Potomac River, I forget the name of the marina, and they don't advertise that there's mooring balls on their website, but it's the marina that the West Virginia Senator,
Rubio?
no, the West Virginia guy, I can't remember his name right now, but if someone's really is going that way and wants to know, I'd be happy to look it up, because I would have the information, but $40 to $50 a night in DC.
You take your dinghy to shore, and you're walking distance to the subway, and it's a clean, neat metro, and we loved it there.
I think we spent about 2 weeks there. Everybody else leaves the boat show and goes to the Bahamas. I put two of our favorite monuments. John was hungry that day, and I don't know.
And the bread line didn't move.
So this was the FDR Memorial, which ended up being one of our favorites. It goes, he was the only three-term president, so it goes on like forever, and is got really many interesting displays within it. And then the Korean War Monument. My dad was in the Korean War, so I put that one out. It was one you don't see a whole lot of. So
My wife was a biker girl and pedal bike, and I was a scooter guy.
yeah, you can rent bikes or scooters and get all over the place if you're not in the mood to walk. So Florida, this big old list, I put it on there really just to share with you. So we did so much of this on a teeny tiny budget. And so finding mooring balls or anchorages was essential to our being able to do this for 4 years. And so this is, St. Augustine, Vero Beach, Miami, you can pick up mooring balls on the cheap, Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, there's anchorages, although your allowed time in them is very limited because people get in there and let their boats rot, and homeowners with the multi-million-dollar homes aren't very happy about that, so they kind of keep an eye on you. And then we went from Miami to to Bimini is how we entered the Bahamas, was Bimini. And
These were some of our favorite. West Palm Beach, they had great mass transit.
yeah,
We literally got off the dock and got picked up, and they took us all over the city.
yep. And we had folding bikes, so we could go across to the Breakers, the big fancy hotel, and all the
And we just say we're just going for a coffee, and they'd let us in.
yeah, didn't need a reservation. It was good. So some of our favorite places along the Florida coast, St. Augustine.
This is supposed to be the oldest town in the United States. It was founded by the Spanish. It was the only fort that never fell because it was made out of coral. And the enemy, when they shot cannonballs, it would just absorb into the wall. It didn't crack the wall, just went whoop. And here is trying to clean and inspect the cannon.
So, and this is our boat parked right by the fort.
And this mooring field was really nice. They had taxis. So we didn't really take the dinghy down, they just come and pick us up. It was great.
Yeah, we eventually learned, don't take your dinghy, just call the water taxi. And then West Palm Beach, the anchorage I think I mentioned, was, so we were there sort of between Christmas and New Year's, our first year of our travels. And the whole city, I mean, all these lights like move, it's all like light show. And there's music after dark that you can hear from your boat. Thank God it doesn't go on all night long. But so that was pretty fun. And West Palm again is, you mentioned the transportation was amazing. So then we get to, I'm skipping Miami and we're going to the Bahamas. So the map there, so we entered at Bimini, and which
Great
is
Barrier
like
Reef.
way over here. And then you go across the Great Bahamas Bank, and it's you can't do it in one
You
day.
notice there's no land? Nothing.
Yeah, you can't do it in one day. And there's an anchorage area that people typically use, and you need to get about a mile off the cruise ship path.
These are lines of preferred routes. This is the tongue of the sea. And they just recommend you see the buoy right here? You just go about a mile off it and drop your anchor.
So
And
we dropped our anchor and we're, making dinner, playing backgammon, chatting. The sun's finishing going down, and stars from one water line to the other.
she was in heaven. And I'm going, no land, no lights. and then after sunset, I seen a couple mastheads. Other boats were surrounding us too, so then it made me sleep like a rock then.
How deep was it?
It's
10
really
by
shallow.
15 feet, it's shallow.
Yeah. They tell you to watch for coral heads, so you really got to keep your eyes open. You just look for the dark spots, and you just turn around them. On the backside of Bimini or NASA, that's where you really see the coral
More of
heads.
the coral heads, yeah. This really wasn't bad coral heads. But you don't want to really travel at night. Not a good idea. So then from there we went north to the Berries, and this was the first anchorage we stayed in the Berries. And then this other picture, so there was a marina there that was, you know, restaurant, a grocery store. So we're thinking, oh, let's go in and check that out. And our Canadian friends had reservations in the marina, and so we wanted to join up with them. But finding this entrance,
This cut is hard to see because when you're looking at woods and woods, right? You don't see the opening. There's no buoys that you see. You only see it when you come right to the channel.
yeah.
And with your big boat, you don't want to make a mistake.
So we took our dinghy in first to just make sure we really knew where we were going. And then went in with the big boat and had lunch with our friends. And checked out the grocery store. It wasn't a good one.
It was.
I don't think we bought anything, maybe a package of gum, I don't know. So then Nassau was, you know, you pull in there and you have to call, it's a
Harbor control.
Harbor control. And to
We had to
get
have
permission to
permission.
enter. First time ever. Not even New York doesn't even do that, but Nassau does that. And you go past these gigantic moving skyscrapers.
And we stayed at I mentioned Bill Hooper's name. He had a friend that owns one of the marinas. And we stayed at his marina. And he goes, tell Bill to get his butt down here. Here, you tell him yourself. And Bill picked up and they had a great conversation. We had a fun time at the marina.
Yeah, and then we walked, I don't know, maybe a mile down the road to a place where supposedly you can buy fresh seafood. And I was a little suspect when we first got there. It was all Bahamian people. There were no tourists there. And people were selling the seafood out of their coolers. And so at first I was like, oh, I don't know about this, you know.
Suspect.
All the Bahamans are buying it. I don't know, must be okay. So then we noticed that captains of the fishing boats were coming in, selling their wares to the people with the coolers. And so it really was very fresh, very
Fresh. And the guys working on the coolers, who were helping the owners, they got paid in fish. So
It was pretty fun. So then another thing that we did in Nassau was we walked over to, there's a big casino there that the fancy rich people, the richy rich people go to, and not people like us, not people.
we had a meal, like we had a burger.
Yeah, we did go, so we walked across the bridge, had a burger, toured the casino, pretended we belonged there. It's lovely, but you know, people who go there thinking this is the Caribbean, this is the Bahamas, yeah, no. It's Disneyland.
This is real Bahamas.
Beautiful, beautiful beaches. And so that one where I'm standing in my scuba gear, they actually shot Jaws there. So.
Yeah. And it's somewhere in the bay here, there's a statue that they give you the coordinates, but you could be like 5-10 feet away and you would say, Brenda went out there swimming and stuff. And
I know, it gave me something to look for.
I do believe this is our boat back here.
I did not find it though, but whatever. So then, we're still in the Bahamas. COVID. And so we were across the street from the marina that we were staying at. There was the best grocery store in the Bahamas. It actually was American quality, fresh vegetables, which
And
you just
stocked.
never find. Yeah, full. Very nice. So we were over there having breakfast in this little itty bitty, like,
Cafe. Everybody has their favorite cafe. This was the cafe.
yeah, and it was all Bahamian people again. This was not a tourist place. $5, you get a beautiful breakfast. So we're there, and the church ladies were there. They'd been visiting. They got done visiting. They left their newspaper, and I thought, oh, I want to see what the Bahamian newspaper has to say. So I pick up their newspaper, and it looks like
The little free
like
rays
the
you get around
Enquirer
here.
or something at the grocery stores here. It's just a little thing. And the whole front page was talking about the fact that the Bahamian people had 8 college students over in Wuhan province. 7 of them are coming home, and they're being put into a mandatory 2-week quarantine. And having worked in healthcare, I thought, ooh, you know, there's not a lot of medical infrastructure here. they're gonna have to close borders in order to keep their people healthy. We gotta go. We gotta go.
So our time in the Bahamas was short.
Very short, maybe 6 weeks. So not a lot of experience. We're planning to go all through the Caribbean. Oh well.
And soon after we left, you got on the blogs and stuff, they were shutting borders.
They were shutting borders. So we get back to Miami, everything is like normal here. COVID? What COVID? You know, there's nothing going on. And then things started to close. So the borders closed, and then it was getting to be spring break for the college kids in Florida back then, and it was DeSantis, same governor now, that they have now, was closing, so they were closing beaches because they didn't want the college kids coming down for spring break. Then they were closing the boat ramps because they didn't want the fishermen congregating at the boat ramps. Then they were closing the sandbars because people would go swimming and hang out at sandbars and drink beer and party. So they were closing everything. We get up to St. Augustine and the confusion story.
So we had reservations at St. Augustine. It's where that fort was. I was checking out the cannon. And one of our favorite places, we needed fuel. So we got our assignments and we tied up, and now we call the next morning, we want to go and get fuel. And they said, oh yeah, leave. I go, well, we need fuel, you gotta leave. And I go, what happens if we don't leave? Well, you'll probably get arrested. So I go, well, does the roof leak? My wife's looking at me dirty. And they go, I bet you the roof's still good. And I go, do they serve breakfast, hard-boiled eggs? I don't know. Oh, it's fine, I think they do. Then my wife grabs the phone.
I'm like, so he's really just yanking on your chain? But the truth is, we cannot safely leave here without picking up diesel. We gotta come in and pick up diesel. And I'm pretty certain that that's an essential service. So, food and fuel, I'm pretty sure. Could you just talk to whoever made the decision and let them know that you have someone here who really insists on buying fuel before they untie from that mooring ball? And so then John takes the phone back from me.
And I wanted to let him know that there's another 500 boats behind us coming up.
All coming north to get out of hurricane season. You gotta let
You know, because everybody's getting out of the Bahamas, out of the Keys, and they're
out of
heading
Miami
north.
and they're heading north. You gotta get, wow. Yeah. So then the next morning they called us and they let us, they said,
Come on
we're gonna
in."
so they call you transients, which isn't a very nice name. They call you transients when you're going from here to there, so you're a transient. And so the guy says, we're gonna let you transients come in and pick up fuel.
The marina is officially closed, but the fuel dock is open. So.
And then we get a couple little, so people often ask us what about the worst weather that we had to put up with. And so we each have a story about the scariest weather day.
So we were at a really good hurricane hole. It was back, way in the back. It was surrounded by land. They're really cool, big homes and everything. And we had about a window, about 4 or 5 hours to get across this inlet to another hurricane hole. So we figured, okay, we got time before the storm.
We know the storm was coming in the late afternoon, but we thought, it's a 4-hour sail.
So we pull up our anchor in blue, sunny skies. And we're heading across, we're about 2 hours out, and Mr. Fogg shows up. And got heavier and heavier and heavier. But we were laying down a track, so we just turned around and we followed ourselves back to the hurricane hole. And then we set extra chain out and we yanked it back real hard, and we rocked the storm pretty well. We had another boat come in at the same anchorage, and we left our radio on. We called them up before the storm because if you have any problems, let's talk to each other.
So we kept the VHF radio open to chat, and it was a solid storm.
Yeah, we were well protected. We had a lot of land.
But it was really the fog that was the issue. And then another time in the fog, gotta double check our time, we're okay. Another time we were in the fog, so we were leaving the St. Johns River. North of the St. Johns River, there's a free dock that can support about 4 or 5 pretty good sized boats.
But free.
Yeah, free. We're on a budget. So we're at the free dock, we're gonna go in the morning, so we're heading off, and beautiful, beautiful sunny day, perfect weather, and we're gonna motor sail down to St. Augustine, so we're not planning to go into the Atlantic through the St. John's River, although you certainly can, it's a great inlet, but we weren't going to. So we get a couple of hours away from the free dock, and whoosh, there comes the float. And we're in the ICW, and it's a narrow,
It's a skinny right there.
skinny part there. And there is nowhere to anchor, and I keep checking and rechecking all of our guides to try to find an anchorage, nothing before St. Augustine. And so John was driving.
A little white knuckle, and I could see the crab pots, and that usually tells you where they come right up to the channel, because they got to be in 15 feet of water where they like. And you could see about 50 feet, you could see the crab pots. And Brenda has
I had
two
two kinds of
GPSs up and
navigation running, and I was letting him know, okay, honey, you gotta go a little left, you're getting out of the channel, you gotta go a little right now.
Yeah. No wonder I was white knuckle.
We only saw, yeah. We only saw two other boats, and one was a fishing boat, you
A
know.
little 16-foot aluminum craft.
There's no radar,
No
GIS,
lights, no nothing.
nothing's gonna help you find that boat. And the other one was a trawler.
Yeah.
That-
Grand Banks.
Yeah, that was like us, going very slow and very carefully, and you hear them before you see them, so. And then food stories,
My favorite, our email is a commercial shrimp dock. So you got these big shrimpers there.
the arm things
And
and
they
the
they sold real fish there. And you got power and a rotten dock. It was okay. They kept on fixing over the years. But one of my favorite places to go, because they had fresh
coming
fish.
right off the boats, and you could buy the shrimp uncleaned or partially cleaned. You could buy the
Scallops.
scallops. They'd take it off the shells, but you'd have to trim off the muscle.
I made shallots for the first time I did Chef Ramsay style.
Yeah, it was great fun. And then my favorite story was in Isle Royale when we were circumnavigating it. You often end up parked right in an area where the campers are hiking. And you've got everything. You got steak on the grill and a glass of red wine, and they're rehydrating God only knows what.
But if we have we survived. We rescued 3 girls.
Yeah.
Their water pump died, and Brenda gave her 3.
You could see the blotchy face from when you get dehydrated. They were in bad shape. And I said, here, I've got water. Take my water. Well, she didn't want to take the water, and I couldn't figure out, what's going on here. Eventually, it hit me that when you're backpacking, you got to pack everything back out.
Yeah.
And so I said, in the morning, just throw those plastic bottles in our boat.
And then they took the water. And then I had a spare water pump. We had 2 water pumps.
Little one, but something.
But we gave the REI water filtration system to them. And they're bumping into us as we're going around Isle Royale. We met them at the end, and they just walked right up to the boat now, and they were so tickled pink that we gave them water every day.
And then we already talked about my favorite stop, John's favorite stop. We haven't talked about that.
Well, down in Boot Key, down in the Keys, Key Largo,
Marathon.
Marathon Key.
Yeah.
We didn't even make it to Key West.
There are some other sailors from Wayzata Yacht Club that are down there now, I think.
There.
From the sonar fleet, yeah.
Well, anyways, I played pickleball every morning, and then we had our bikes.
I did yoga in the park. So it's COVID and it's pre-vaccines. And you're right next to this huge park. And outside, and the sailors would, get together and play pickleball or do yoga.
Everybody
do
kept their
bocce ball.
distances and stuff. It was great. And then we'd ride our bikes into the grocery store, buy sandwiches in this park. It had this beautiful breeze. And we'd sit there, and it was in the shade and the nice
picnic
breeze.
place,
It was heaven.
Yeah. So we spent a couple of months there. It was very nice.
Yeah. We had one ordeal there, and we have time. We're in our boats. I'm in my underwear and a t-shirt. No t-shirt.
He got the name Captain Underpants.
she was in bed.
I'm in
and
bed and and I hear this bump bump and I'm like, what was that?
I think we just got hit by another boat.
And
sure
it's an
enough.
anchorage with like 250 mooring balls.
Yeah, there, and so I go up top and I fend off this boat. And Brenda's on the radio and
Calling for
I go, Brenda, can you give me a coat? So I'm really
It
up here
starts
with my
raining now and he's up there at Captain Underpass.
She did a great job. She called for help. We had like 7 dinghies there in a row.
And everybody brought lines and extra bumpers and helped us figure it out.
We were in a mooring field and this boat came in throughout the hook, got
They
off
shouldn't have been.
and went to dinner without making sure the
Without
anchor
even
was
making
on.
sure.
Yeah.
And there were other ridiculous things. I mean, they were very nice and we were able to solve the problem without anybody yelling at anybody. But they were people who didn't belong in a brand new, beautiful sailboat. Just really.
In one word, it was a hunter.
It was beautiful. And so then we'll go into Q&A now, but I did want to I'll leave this up, but I kept a blog our whole 4 years and so for people who are interested in charts or more of the technical stuff or museum pictures, I don't know, all kinds of things, you can go to this blog, just Google that, and you can just slide through the whole 4 years is there. I post it at least once a week, sometimes daily. So,
This was taken, Mark, can you wait for a second?
Yes.
Mark took this picture of us and we wanted to point that out. We really thank him for it.
Is that Pike's Bay?
it was actually here when we
Oh,
got
it was
back.
here, oh.
He took
Oh, I
it.
guess it is, yeah, okay.
So then I guess we'll open it up, we'll shut up and hear questions.
Yes.
You said your boat was at Tartan.